I loved this book, and I had this very unique experience of sitting at Frank in the East Village, and somebody sat down and they had the hardcover of this book, and I was like, oh my God, that's the best book. You're so lucky you're about to read this book. And it was Rich Cohen. He was like, that's my book! And that rarely happens, but where does it happen? In New York. So this is my book, Something Red. It takes place in 1979. 1979 is this amazing time. It's a time period that's sort of haunted by all these other time periods. It's the hangover from the 60s and this lack of optimism, and there's a grain embargo on. Jimmy Carter's in office. I became interested in the way every generation defines what it means to be progressive or what it means to be a radical, and how I felt that there was sort of a decline of radicalism over the generations. And so I really wanted to look at that, starting with the grandparents who are these Lower East Side socialists, and then the parents, they consider themselves radical in some way, and then they make certain decisions, and then their children make certain decisions, and everyone thinks that they're very progressive. I love my paperbacks. Some of them I've had for a really long time. This is like one of my treasured paperbacks, How to Talk Dirty and Influence People, Lenny Bruce. You can't find a book like this that looks like this anymore, because I can just see the marketing people being like, no one is gonna pick this up off the table, it's gonna get hidden, da, 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 da. But I mean, it's such a cool book. Enormous Changes at the Last Minute by Grace Paley. Grace Paley is one of my favorite writers just because of the way she deals with dialogue, her attention to voice, and what she writes about. I mean, I see her as a really political writer, even though she's not really writing about anything other than women's lives. I got really into collecting first editions for a while. I'm not as into it anymore, but I mean, I'm really glad to have this collection. This is an amazing book. And I am such a huge fan of Leonard Michaels and feel like finally he got collected. He deals with a lot of the same issues that Roth does. Deals with sex, deals with issues of father-son relationships, different generations. I do like a little humor. Something that's really solemn isn't always for me. I have Delmore Schwartz's In Dreams Begin Responsibilities. This is one of my favorite books of all time. He deals so interestingly with the immigrant experience and sort of becoming an artist out of that. And this was my grandmother's. My grandmother put her, when they used to do that, what do they call them?
Book plate.
Book plates. Charlotte B. Wernick's. You do have the sense that it's been touched by someone you love, who's no longer here. So that is another way that books are about legacy, and I think that that's really interesting. Some Susan Sontag that I got when I worked for Leonard Lopate, and she came in, and it wasn't valuable at the time because it was just a book that came out. And that's what's so interesting about books, is they do, unlike cars, appreciate in value.